All right, how we doing, guys? So in this video, I'm going to actually run you through from start to finish just the onboarding process, which is basically kind of getting your initial product data into the system and then downloading your first bulk file. We'll talk about adding the top 20% of the targets that you're currently running ads on. We'll add those to a special table, just kind of keep a close eye on them, and we can bid more aggressive if we want to do that. So I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you how to set up initial bid parameters, and then we'll actually optimize our bids using those parameters. And then I'm going to show you how to upload your revised bulk file back up to Amazon. So it's going to be a pretty kind of step-by-step, quick and to the point video. But my goal is I hopefully helps you understand how to get started with Apex as quick as possible and just kind of get your feet under you and see kind of how the different tabs and different features kind of work together to help you manage your Amazon PPC. So without further ado, you should have already watched the authorization video. And then before you click download onboarding reports, just make sure you're already logged into Seller Central and go ahead and click that. All right, so you can see this first one opens you to the fee preview file. And if it doesn't open you right to the fee preview, you can always scroll down and just click fee preview there under payments. And then the inventory report there. If you have a vendor central account as opposed to a seller central account, you may need to kind of go to these manually. You're basically just trying to get for this inventory report your SKU list and ASIN list. That's literally all you need. So the one we like to use is this all listing report, and that pretty much has all your data in it. So you're just going to click that and then download it, and you can save it to your desktop or save it to a Google Drive account that you're working with with the tools. So I've already got one saved, so I'm just gonna close that. And then same thing with the fee preview report. I like to download the CSV file. This one here, the fee preview report, is just used for a profit and gross margin calculation in the SKU dashboard tool. So it's not actually required if you don't want to fool with it. But we're gonna assume we've got both of those reports. And if you go to click on that onboarding report and you want those windows to come up, but they're not, you may see a little icon that looks like this here for a pop-up blocker, and it's going to show up right up here in your address bar. If when you click that button that shows up, you can click that and you can disable that pop-up blocker for Amazon, and then it won't do that going forward. So that's just one little thing there. If that icon doesn't come up, you have to go to your Google settings, privacy and security, and then site settings. And then you can scroll down to pop-ups and redirects, and then you can put sites can send pop-ups, or you can allow. At any rate, once you have those files, we're just going to import them both here. I've got them as demo files. So from this one, all we're looking for is literally our SKU list here and our ASINs, which are over here. So you can just copy them separate if you want, but Control-C to copy, and then if you click this step 2, it takes you to the place where you got to paste them. So I'm just going to yes. All right, so literally all we have to do is just paste in the red columns here. So I'm just going to paste that guy, go back over, grab my ASINs. We should have a fully automated way to do this here very soon. This is just kind of temporary, but it's not that bad. So this section here is only needed if you want to use that profit calculation in the SKU dashboard as noted right there. But you can go ahead and paste in your fee preview data. You can also quickly just paste in all the values if you only grab over to this column Y. The trick is some of the foreign markets have different columns, so that's why it's a little bit counterintuitive right now, but you can see there kind of all my fields got filled in, and there's my price. It's just taking whichever's lower of the two, but they're both the same in that case. All right, so once you're there, you can actually just delete these. And actually, if you did not want to download those reports and you just wanted to type in your SKU list and ASIN list and then not worry about, if you didn't care about calculating your profits on the SKU dashboard, then you can skip kind of the download report step, and you can just onboard a lot quicker. So that's basically these two steps. Then all we're going to do is just click this button here, step 3, and that's going to take over some of this data and put it on this SKU dashboard. And then this dashboard here, it'll give us some metrics based on our bulk file here in blue. And then over on the right, we can actually bid. If we want to kind of be lazy, we can bid at the SKU level. This is going to be applicable for any campaign structure that has like a single SKU campaign structure. So where if you don't have multiple SKUs in the same campaign, you can enable this. You can bid based on the economics of each product, which is nice. All right, so once your SKU dashboard is set up, it'll just look like this. There won't be any data in it yet because we haven't imported our bulk file. This is just some generic kind of initial bid settings. We'll talk about those here in just a second. But now we need to go, now that we're done with kind of the onboarding steps here, we're going to go and download our first bulk file. So we're just going to hit Get Bulk Sheet. And again, if that pop-up menu pops up, just kind of keep an eye on it for that and disable it for this website if needed. All right, so once you get to the bulk operations page, you want to make sure you have the new spreadsheet format toggled. If you do the legacy, pretty much everything I'm going over in this video will not work. All right, so you're going to want to make sure that that's checked both when you download the bulk file and when we upload it at the end of this video. So your first bulk file, I'd recommend either a 30 or 60 day range, just kind of your preference. I tend to start with 60 day and test that out for a few weeks. And then I end up usually moving to 30 day. I think it just gives you a better kind of closer representation of the bid landscape, like your competitors and whatnot, how they're bidding. So, but for this, I want to do 60 day just to kind of get as much data going as possible. We're going to deselect the campaign items with 0 impressions, and we don't have sponsored display enabled yet for Apex. That's very soon, but not quite yet. So you can keep sponsored brands and products if you want, and go ahead and hit Create Spreadsheet for download. All right, and then once it's ready, it'll basically just look like this one underneath it. You're just going to hit download and save that. I like to save it to my Google Drive account. You can also just keep it kind of in local storage there in your Chrome browser. It'll show up down at the bottom here in a little bar. But once you have that file downloaded, you're going to go back to Apex and you're just going to import that. So File, Import. And when you authorize Apex, it's going to create a couple folders automatically. The first one is this FBA Excel Tools, and that's actually going to be where Apex is stored. So there's going to be a Apex folder automatically get stored there along with any of the other FBA Excel tools that you have set up. But this FBA export files, that's another one to kind of keep an eye on. That's going to be where any kind of final export files from any of the FBA Excel tools get sent. Apex uses this folder for a couple things, so I'll go over that here in this video. But I've got a demo file of my bulk file saved here in demo files. So you're just going to name it whatever you want. I've got mine as 60-day new bulk sample. If you saved it in local storage down here, you'd want to go to upload and then upload that, and you can actually just drag it from that bar up to here if needed. But once you do that, you will get this prompt here, and you just need to choose, when you import a bulk file, choose Insert New Sheet and then hit Import Data. And that's going to import that bulk file and all the tabs that included. It's going to import that into the Apex copy here. So you'll see 3 or 4 tabs show up down here at the bottom in just a second. All right, once the 4 tabs show up, you'll see it saving up here at the top. You got to wait for that before you can actually click around and use the new data. All right, and then once it says save to drive, this little green bar will stop, then you're good. Then you can click around and you're pretty well good to go. All right, so we've imported our bulk file. Now what we're going to do is optimize the file format. This is going to take the tab that we want to work with, which in this case, in this example, is going to be sponsored products. And if we click on it, we can just see there's a lot of data, and it's just kind of all jarbled together and kind of difficult to interpret. So this script here just kind of cleans it up and makes it simpler to manage. All you'll do is hit sponsored products. If you're doing sponsored brands, you'll click sponsored brands. You'll hit yes here. All right, it'll say, do you want to remove pause rows? You'll hit no. That feature is just for bigger bulk files that can't kind of manage the default file that they import. You'll hit OK, and once that OK prompt comes up, you can actually go ahead and delete your sponsored product campaigns tab because we're going to import the revised version. And that's done by going to File, Import. And then you're going to go to that Export Files folder that I mentioned earlier, and you'll see at the very top, Sponsored Products Campaigns 222, it's 223, so that's it. If your files aren't sorted by date, I'd recommend going ahead and just clicking Last Modified, so the newest show up at the top. That makes it easy to kind of find what you need. Same deal, insert new sheet. All right, same thing as before, just wait for that to say Save to Drive, which it just did, so we're good to go. All right, so now to get it in kind of the final working state, you're going to click Initialize Bulk File. And now that we've got our reformatted Sponsored Products file in there, you go ahead and hit Sponsored Products under the Initialize step. You don't need to worry about these extra tabs. Apex will kind of take care of everything for you. Just hit Yes. And this script just takes a few minutes to finish up, but it's basically going to format everything for us. It's going to add some additional columns that allow us to really optimize things quickly, allows us to just do a lot of advanced kind of functions within this Apex platform. The other thing I did not mention, and there's actually a video in the frequently asked questions section of the members area that covers this in more detail, but if when you import your bulk file, you are in another market where you're getting like some weird currency with like the commas, or if maybe if you're in the Japanese marketplace and you know, all your campaigns are showing up in another language, the best practice for using Apex is using the English language and setting up your Google Sheets accordingly. Just real quickly to show you how to do that, go up to File, Settings, and then under here, make sure the language down here is set to English, or I believe English UK works really well as well. And then if you're still having issues, go ahead and change this to United States if you can. But I think it's just the English language that tends to mess some people up. And there's also a setting within your Seller Central that you can change the language to English. I believe it's either in the bottom left corner, or there's another toggle for it in the bottom right when you log in. So again, go in the frequently asked questions section in the members area and you'll see a more in-depth video on this if you're having any kind of just weird issues with your bulk file. But basically when you get done with step 3, this is exactly what it should look like right here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you can see all the columns. Let's go one more. So basically you've got kind of your bulk file screen here with your performance metrics from S to Y. You got your placement metrics and kind of the percentages for the modifiers off here to the right. And then after that, it's pretty well additional columns that Apex has just added. So we've got our conversion rate, cost per click, the original bid here. This is always going to stay static based on what your original bid was when you imported the file. And then this red column is going to be where our optimized bid shows up, that we're going to kind of overwrite what's currently there on the original file and then upload that back to Amazon in this 5th step. But the step in between is the actual optimization, which is kind of the bread and butter of Apex. But before you can optimize, you need to kind of get some initial bid settings set. The SKU dashboard at this point, if we go back to that, which we set up already, you'll notice now there's some values in here. And these values can actually be changed a couple of different ways. I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail in this video. Just know that there's a setting here, and there's a new or another video that'll go over kind of the individual features that'll go into this one in particular, but it's basically just toggling kind of which data from your bulk sheet is displayed there in your SKU dashboard. But again, just remember your SKU dashboard is only sponsored products, and it's only single SKU campaigns as far as what the bid settings will affect. So if you've got multi-SKU campaigns, the bid settings will not be affected, or the bids that are get optimized for those targets won't be affected by this screen. And this screen is optional, so you don't have to use it. I do recommend when you're first getting started that you do use it just to kind of get an understanding, but that option is toggled right there. It'll be on by default, but just know you can turn it off. And if you turn it off, then you're going to be using the bid override table. So that's this other screen here within Apex, and this is the most powerful screen in Apex. There's a ton of features. We're not going to go into a lot of them in this video, but just definitely check out some of the additional videos on how to really utilize the bid override table. But what I do recommend is getting at least your kind of top performers on the bid override table, and an easy way to do that is if you just go up to your bulk file filters and actions. And basically all of these actions here apply to this bulk tab here that we created in step 3. So that icon there you'll see matches this one here, so that again all of these apply. But what I recommend when you're first kind of just getting used to the system, go ahead and hit all enabled targets. This is going to filter out anything that's paused, archived, and then it's going to sort by orders, so we can just see in the past 60 days for this account how many orders, and then we're going to take kind of the top 20%, or we're going to actually figure out how many accounts for 80% of the total. So if we click on column V now and we see a sum of 2,188, I'm just got my calculator here, 2,188 times 80%, so 0.8 gives us 1,750. All right, so what you can do is just click once there on the first row and then go down a little ways and hold in shift, and there's 1,650, so that was a pretty good guess. So there's 1,743 is 8 orders or more. So you can see that's only 79 targets. Okay, so what we do to put these on the bid override table is I'm just going to click right there in column AD as in dog, AC as in cat. So those are the 2 columns that are important when we're talking about the bid override table. This is how you take targets off of your bulk sheet and put them on the bid override table, so you can essentially keep a closer eye on them and you can bid on them more aggressively, and you can also really track them on a daily basis if you want. So I've got the shift key held in. I'm going to go up and just click AC7 there just to get both of those columns worth of data. I'm going to hit Control C as in cat to grab all that data, and then I'm going to go over to the bid override table, and underneath the account type here, you never want to delete this row where it says do not delete. That's kind of your fallback default bid settings. You can see over here they're going to be kind of the most conservative. And then if any of the criteria that you'd set in either the bid override table or the SKU dashboard is not met, then the account level row comes into play. So if you're really lazy, you can actually use this one row to optimize your entire bulk file, although I wouldn't recommend it. All right, so I'm going to single click there in B8 and hit Control Shift V as in Victor to paste just the values. All right, so you can see that brought in our SKUs in some cases, and it brought in the column AD is a special kind of concatenated field that allows us to assign overrides, so you don't need to really worry about that. But just know that any of these that showed up in blank, these are actually multi-SKU campaign targets, so we need to assign a target level override for those just so they kind of get identified uniquely. So I'm just going to go down through here real quick and just paste in the word target for these. All right. And you can see when I did that, I went past my default table. So there's a few options under your bid override table. One of them is reset the filter. So you can click this at any time. And it's going to actually reset this table just to kind of make sure all your filters stay intact and you're not cutting off some of the ones at the bottom. So good to go there. Anytime you add overrides to the bid override table, another good practice is to sync your metrics. And that's just going to pick off the target level metrics for those overrides and pull them over onto that table. And again, the intent of the bid override table is you can really keep a close eye on these targets. These are the ones that are really driving your account right now. So you really want to know what's going on with them. You can update your top of search and product pages placement data in the same operation just by clicking yes right there. And then you'll get a prompt here, hit OK. And lastly, there's a bid preview you can see up here. Right now I'm going to click no just because I've got it set as a new bid and a new bid preview, which I haven't optimized the bids yet, so it wouldn't make sense. But if I toggle this to original and I updated that, then it would basically just pull in what the current bid was set to when I imported my bulk file. All right, so we've got our data in here now. Now I want to talk about actually assigning some bid settings to these top 20% of your top performers, and then also the bid settings over here on the SKU dashboard that we haven't assigned yet. All right, I don't want to get caught up in a lot of just math formulas in this video. There's going to be some designated videos talking about the different bid formulas. Just know that there is 3 different options here to kind of get started. And then there's multiple ways you can kind of fine-tune things going forward. But I recommend starting out with either the Apex or the revenue per click times target ACoS. They're just a little bit more easier to understand. And as far as bid settings, I recommend just carrying down the default settings and then adjusting your max bid based on your current cost per click. So you can see everything there is under $1.50, so I'm just going to keep it at that. You can set the target ACoS and your high and mid ACoS ranges there kind of based on your profit margin. So if you set up your fee preview report data there in the onboarding, you can go up and click SKU dashboard, calculate profits, and that's going to span out a little section here, and then plug in your fees. So you do need to have kind of a landed cost. You can see this one here is just based on 25%. So if you don't know your landed costs offhand, you can just kind of carry that down. You can see you can also plug in a coupon if you're running a coupon to kind of keep track there. And the idea there is just going to give you kind of your break-even ACoS that you can use to set up some of these ACoS thresholds. But in general, just kind of know that this max bid is going to make a bid ceiling on any targets for these single SKU campaigns. So if the formula is saying that it should be bidding more and is performing well, if you've got a max bid threshold set, it's not going to go above that number. And then these settings over here, you can hover over the headers too to kind of get a better explanation. But the click limit, the decrease bid by percentage, impression limit, and step up bid, those are all related to zero converting targets. So basically any target within these SKUs that haven't converted yet, there's some settings there that apply. The click limits for bad performing targets off the bat, and the impression limits more for getting conversions quicker by stepping up your bid based on an impression threshold. So again, check out the bid video to get more description on kind of these settings here. But for now, let's go ahead and just drag down the defaults, make sure our max bid is set above the cost per click, and then let's set our target ACoS at a pretty reasonable level based on your gross margins of your SKUs. And then here you can set kind of a gap if you want between the mid ACoS and high ACoS threshold. If there is a gap, if you have targets that are converting between there, the bid's not going to change. If you set this to like 30% to where there's not a gap, then the bid formula is going to always kind of be in play. So I'll go ahead and just set it up like that for now. And then for the other ones, for the bid override table targets that we've picked off, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to drag down these settings here. So I can just kind of hold in and scroll down from the corner there and let go. All right, and same deal here. I'm just going to go and look, kind of get an idea of what my max is. You can see I saw $1.55, $1.88. I'm going to go ahead and put $2 here. You don't have to be quite as aggressive if you want to cap some of them. That's completely up to you. I'm just going to put $2 there and scroll down. All right. So I'm going to put in this video down here at the bottom kind of the order of precedent as far as when it comes to bidding. But essentially the way it works is it's going to be if you have any targets on here on the bid override table, those are going to take precedence over any other settings. So the bid override table is exactly what it sounds like. It's target level bid overrides. You can also have campaigns. So if you have a campaign override, you're in the override column here. It's going to be the campaign name. If you have a portfolio, which falls underneath the campaigns in order of precedent, it's going to be the portfolio ID. So not the portfolio name, but the portfolio ID in the override column here. And then the account level row is next, but it's not the next in the order of precedence. It actually jumps over to the SKU dashboard settings and then back to the account level row. I mentioned earlier that the account level row is kind of your fail-safe fallback bid settings if no other criteria is met. So just know that that's kind of your lowest level. And then the precedence, again, it goes target override, campaign override, portfolio override, then over to the SKU dashboard. So that's where it would use these settings then, and then back then to your account level row as the lowest level. All right. So the purpose of that is if you don't have any overrides on here and you just want to use the SKU dashboard settings, so you can use the SKU dashboard for any single SKU campaigns, and then the account level row would fall back to be your multi-SKU campaign settings. So the overrides are very powerful though. You can set up your account by portfolios. You can just do a bunch of different things to kind of segment out how you want to bid and structure things. So anyway, that's kind of our initial bid settings that we want to set up. You can, obviously, on these that are doing really well, bid a little more aggressive. You can set some additional ceilings there. The low bid setting usually doesn't change on most accounts. It will be, anywhere from like 5 to 20 cents on the higher CPC niches. But in general, that's kind of in a nutshell how to get things set up. And from there, as far as optimizing your bids, it's a single click operation. So again, watch the bid video that'll be after this one, but there'll be a actual Google document you can download, and it'll show you the Apex formula and how it works. And then you can cross-check that to the column headers here and get a real clear understanding of how the calculations are being done. So once we're ready to optimize our bids though, you're just going to come up here to optimize bids, hit Apex and hit yes. And you can do this at any time. It's not a big deal if you click that Apex button multiple times in one kind of optimization sequence. But you can see what's happening. It's going to fill in this optimized bid column with the new bid, and then it's going to actually overwrite this column K a second time with that bid. So we're just going to hit OK once we get that prompt, and you can see these values there just changed as well. You get that finish script button. And then if you're good with everything, you're effectively all ready to create your final upload file and upload it back to Amazon. But I wanted to mention a few other things before this video is over with. The bid override column, this is a pretty handy column, especially when you're testing new campaigns and you want to kind of jump out to a higher bid from the get-go, or maybe you're launching some exact match single keyword campaigns. You can set a fixed bid override here, and that's going to override any of the ratio-based bid formula settings off here to the right. So let's say for this top target that's converting at 25% ACoS, it's an ASIN target. So let's do this one here. This is more of a exact match probably. Let's see. We can hit this button here. It'll show us the campaign. Looks like, this account's kind of a dummy account, so I don't have it labeled very well, but let's assume this is an exact match target. We're going to plug in a $1.50 override there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Apex again just to kind of illustrate the fact that you can do that multiple times. It's not going to harm anything. And then another cool feature you can do just to kind of get you acclimated is sync your bid preview. Right now I have it set as new. So that's going to show me actually from my bulk file what these targets are set at. And you can see this one's $1.50 because I've got this override set. If I didn't have that set, it would be using the bid formula settings over here. So these other ones have used the bid formula settings. So you can see this cost per click was originally $1.25. Because of the settings we put in here, and we're being a little more aggressive with our target ACoS, we've got these thresholds set. Since it's right now converting at 25%, the bid is actually increased by, it looks like 11 cents, or 12 cents. So you can see just kind of at a glance now for these targets that you really want to focus on, how the bid formula is acting. And if you don't like it, you can always tweak the settings over here to kind of meet your goals. All right, so that's kind of the main points I wanted to get across in this video. Again, I don't want to go into too many details. There's a ton of other cool features here that we're going to be covering in future videos. One thing I did want to mention though in this video is the top of search and product page placement metrics. Again, these are just campaign level metrics. So we've got targets on here, and they could be multi-keyword campaigns, or they could be single keyword campaigns. You would need to kind of tag them or label your campaign names accordingly to know that from this table. But this can be useful because you can see at the metric or at the placement level, if you've got some that are performing really well top of search, then maybe you want to bid more aggressively on those. So I just wanted to kind of mention that as well. And there's another really cool feature called the target sniper in here. That one we're going to hold off for another video, but it can be super powerful for monitoring kind of the daily metrics of your targets. So Anyway, once you've dialed in your optimized new bids, it's going to be as simple as coming up here, hitting create upload file. One step you'll need to do for sponsored products, if you do have campaign level negations, which you'll know if you do by going over to your bulk file and clicking the entity right here, it'll say campaign negative keyword. So right there, the new format of the bulk files actually doesn't let you upload those, so we have to remove them. So we're just going to hit this remove campaign level negations, hit yes, and that's just going to automatically remove those columns from this bulk file here. And then you're going to get a prompt in just a second. We'll hit OK, and now if we check, you'll see that they're in fact gone. So now the last step in the process, we're just going to hit sponsored products and hit yes, and you can see there it's just telling us that if we have the campaign level negations to remove them. All right, so what this is doing, it's formatting a finalized bulk file that we can upload back to Amazon, and it's going to save it in our FBA export files folder. So once that is saved and you get this prompt, you'll hit OK, and the filters will kind of default back to the way they were. But now we're ready to upload it, so you're just going to go back, hit choose file. Again, make sure you have the new spreadsheet toggled on, and then you're going to go, if you have the Google Drive for Desktop app installed, you can kind of go right to your Google Drive account, which is really handy. And you can get the link for that if you go to the members area under the frequently asked questions or the getting started section. And then you're going to go to the FBA export files folder, and you'll see there at the top at 258, it's 259 right now, it created this file here. You're just going to double click on that and click upload. I'm not going to do it because this is dummy data, but that is the process. And that's kind of from start to finish the way I recommend getting acclimated to the system. One last thing I'll mention is the next time you want to optimize your bids, it's going to be as easy as deleting this sheet. So you delete that tab, you hit OK, and now we're back at step one. So we're going to get our new bulk file, which is going to grab a new date range, and then you're going to import that just like we did at the beginning of the video, and then kind of walk through these sequence of steps again. If you don't need to tweak anything and you aren't using some of these other tools to like harvest new keywords or maybe analyze some of the previous data, then your optimization process should really only take 5 to 10 minutes to import a new file, run through the initialization process, and then create that upload file. So pretty simple and straightforward once you kind of get the hang of it. From here though, if you walk through with your own data, I'd recommend now going and checking out the feature-based videos, which are going to be real short. I'm going to try to keep them under 5 minutes and just be quick hitters on each one of these features so you really can get an idea of how to best utilize them in Apex. So hope this helps, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks.